General Dr. Vijay Kumar Alwalia, Director of Clause, Dr. Jyoti Pathania, Colonel Mohak Gambhir, Mr. Alak Ranjan, and the Clause team for the invitation and the warm hospitality. Thank you, Chair General Subhatra Saha, for the kind introduction, fellow panelists, generals, defense attaches, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and namaste. It is indeed a profound pleasure to be back in New Delhi. I was part of the Golden Jubilee batch of National Defense College in 2010 when I had an opportunity to be part of the inauguration functions in this wonderful Manik Shah Center. Now, paying tribute to Field Marshal Manik Shah, let me quote what he said that binds the people of Nepal and India together. Quote, "If anyone tells you he is never afraid, he is a liar or he is a Gorkha," unquote. Nepalese fight together, shoulder to shoulder, for the dignity and protection of India. Let me quote what PM Modi said at the Nepalese 601 Constitutional Assembly in August 2014. Quote, "हिंदुस्तान के लिए कोई लड़ाई जीती नहीं है जो जीत के साथ किसी नेपाली का रक्त न बहा हो, भारत के स्वाभिमान के लिए, भारत के रक्षा के लिए," unquote. Nepal is a land of Buddha and Sita, land of Buddha and Sita was born, and India where Buddha was enlightened and Sita her home. This expresses how close we are, and we need to work together to face and fight the common challenge of terrorism. The topic I will be discussing this afternoon is technology and urban warfare. We have been discussing a lot about different types of warfare. We have been talking so much about technology. Now let me put a perspective on general picture on the geopolitics, realities of South Asia, a region followed by possibilities of ISIS in South Asia and the use of technology, trends of technology, and I will end with recommendations. By 2030, of the 2/3 of the world's population is expected to be living in the cities. The recent wars have become more urban and more complex. Conflict is more urbanized, and new technologies are also playing a role. As humans are organized, so as warfare. But warfare is specifically characterized by the method of fighting and the tactics, techniques, and technology used. There are two overarching challenges when conducting a military operation, as in the urban areas. One is simply being able to understand the environment. The other is being able to understand how to operate in the environment. South Asia is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multi-lingual regions, is fragile due to political instability, corruption, poor governance, is a home for more than 22 UN designated terrorist entities and nearly half of all the UN listed individual terrorists. After 9/11 and the US and allies and other nations have been looking for collaborated and even collective efforts through alliance and cooperation. South Asian nations last year was occupied with the increase of the conflict facade. More often than not, constructive, pessimistic, obviously, albeit and shark of hopes. With terrorist attacks occurring in interlude, there is now a prerequisite to cross with a South Asian resolution. The geopolitical realities that attempt to challenge our immoral civilization and relationship, the way we think and the way we behave as South Asians. The trends of geostrategic environment has three geopolitical realities that are challenging the old order of the region. The old order of the region is shifting and shifting fast with China, European Union, Russia, United States, and the middle powers' formidable presence in South Asia. One is geography. The mountains that used to be the barriers are flattening. Strategic communications networks are being constructed. Connectivity is not just physical and amongst bordering states, but ideas, values, culture, and technology. The rise and competition with China and Russia has been a challenge to the American power, influence, and interests. The big power politics is undermining globalization, turning its back on global institutions, assaults in multilateralism, cutting off financial assistance and aid to UN relief actions, and engaging in the trade policy predominantly based on the bilateral approach. The Indo-Pacific region remains and holds the most strategic importance of geographical regions for the United States America First policy. The borders have not changed, but geography has. Second is regional old structure. China's White Paper 2017 and the growing interest in South Asia with recent visits by President Xi Jinping to Nepal, Myanmar, its support to Pakistan in the UN, and upbeat engagement in Bangladesh, 5 August 2019, revoking of Article 370 and 35A from the Indian Constitution, the Citizen Amendments Act, national registrations of citizens, and India-China military confrontation in Doklam is just few examples. The economic assistance and engagement in assisting for political influence, the CPEC, Bhutan and Nepal as the gateway to India with Belt and Road Initiative, China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, and Bangladesh-China-India-Myanmar Economic Corridor. This positions China firmness and the will to be a bridge to the Indian Ocean. Third is power rivalry. The United States is using economic tools, allies, and partnership. India and China's cooperations and competition is evidently visible. The United States has termed China and Russia as a revenge power and as contestants. The United States has strengthened the political and economic supremacy with trade war and sanctions. Geopolitics altering with two strategic assessments in national capitals world over. First is the growing influence of international power and influence by China and now in capitals of almost all the South Asian nations. Second involves US prioritizing the Indo-Pacific strategy as the core geopolitical sphere. And India with its first neighborhood policy. So finding technological perfection and enhancements to possible and potential threat by terrorists, using technology in urban environment in India and rest of the South Asian nations will be a real strategic challenge and vulnerability in the years or even decades to come. While the diplomatic moves and profound gains are just a side shows and a temporary use along the way. 10th July 2020 in Nairobi, United Nations Secretary General, expressing solidarity to the victims of external attacks in Africa said, quote, "Trauma from terrorism hurts families, communities, and destabilizes the entire region. Nothing can justify terrorism and violent extremism, but we must also acknowledge that there are not a rise in a vacuum. No one country can defeat it alone. A more holistic approach is needed to defeat the growing menace as an approach that makes full of use of soft power, political tools, and complements law enforcement, military solutions, and security measures," unquote. On July 29, 2014, the capture of Mosul by the Islamic State shocked the world with an audio message proclaiming the establishment of a caliphate. 5 years later, in March 2019, a US-backed alliance of Syrian fighters announced that ISIS had lost the last sections of the territory in Syria it controlled. Technology appears considerable for the rapid takeover of territory by ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Its secretive organizational structure and its goal of establishing a Syria-based state and caliphate marked the entry of a new type of territorially oriented terror group. Visible demonstrations of violence produced own films, short documentaries, audio narratives, and went to develop a propaganda strategy, including the beheading of foreigners on video, and used the social media to disseminate its videos, speeches, and imaginary. ISIS established a caliphate and released a map in which it identified territories including South Asia's Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Burma, and India, which is of concern. Towards the end, ISIS utilized the idea of Khorasan, historically reviewed as the golden age of Islam, and through its Khorasan province into South Asia and Southeast Asia, which is remaining and expanding goals. The South Asian countries have been witnessing increased terrorist acts when the region is not new to terrorism. Above and beyond many occurrences, the 21st April Eastern attacks at Colombo, deadliest terrorist attack in Kashmir in over 30 years, where 38 paramilitary troops were killed in a convoy in Palwana on 14 February. The GEM that operates openly in Pakistan claimed responsibility. This clearly indicates that intelligence and other enforcing establishments are not united to challenge the common threat. The acts of terrorism in South Asia appear from diverse causes, fueled by global dynamics, bilateral enmity, Rohingya refugee migration, and local communal grievances, highlighting the already deep ethnic and religious fault lines. But to this, what is significant are information, technology, finance, logistics, communication, organization, leadership, and recruitment. Terrorists have been using technology for years, right from the first World Trade bombing in 1993. Ramzi Yusuf was using information in his laptop and was encrypted. The FBI could not read the information and send it to the National Security Agency. That took a year for the information to be encrypted. Terrorists use internet for a variety of purposes: fundraising, operational planning, propaganda like the beheading vision, the videos, recruitment, and using it for many years, and the masters at it. The terrorists from the Technological Operations Center is an example to operationalize technological informations in real times. So terrorists are using drones, terrorists are using internets, and terrorists are using smartphones, and terrorists are using inscriptions. So the trends of technology, the use of Google, the use of cell phones, communication is far more sophisticated than the 9/11 or the Bombay attacks. The terrorists could use proactive materials or biological weapons. The weapons exist, but who is responsible and accountable is the question. There has been a lot of discussions about technology, but the trends seems to be the drone swarm, spying smart office devices, computer visioning, capabilities for face recognition, artificially enabled cloning, intelligent hacking, smart dust, disinformation, and fake news. So recommendations. To conclude, while the region offers unprecedented opportunity on security-related cooperation, continues to experience by a myriad of security challenges from a range of transnational threats, including ISIS, multiple terrorist organizations, and the technology they operate with. There is a requirement of a strategic core geopolitical mechanism to build sober and reliable intelligence-based assessments and forecasts on key trends of threats to help South Asian nations make informed decisions, identify opportunities, and anticipate risks. Geopolitics no longer deals or trades just with neighbors. India can look for patterns by reframing geopolitics in order to re-examine the past, experience in the present context with a new perspective, and also to try to anticipate the future. It is a political determination and will to decide what we need. To end, I will portray 4 geostrategic states of affairs and 6 way forwards to combat these complex challenges. 1. Pakistan to lead and coordinate with the terrorist organizations and ISIS-K in South Asia to organize and expand multi-domain operations with extra operational capabilities similar to the one strategized by Soleimani. 2. United States and the international troops is in the process of withdrawing from Afghanistan after 18 years of war with a good agreement with the Taliban, which will most likely lead to instability that will have regional impact and will be left to the 6 immediate neighbors countries, particularly China, India, and Russia. 3. India is facing unprecedented challenge in social order after the revoking of Article 370 and passing of the CAA. 4. China's growing influence in South Asia. Way forward. 1. Continue to broaden and strengthen partnership with the United States with technology to combat ahead regional threats of terrorism in South Asia. 2. Security diplomacy should initiate with political engagements with the Defense Minister, Home Minister, Chief of Law Enforcement Forces, and the intelligence community, meetings to share and cooperate in exchange in information that gets in the way for security order. Bilateral measures have been taking place, but regional attempts with clear recorded mandates and appropriate to contain the common challenges with operational mechanism. 3. Military to military diplomacy is an approach not just through traditional schemes of military education and capabilities enhancement, but through forces chiefs conferences. Though the last-minute political decisions restricted the Nepalese army to be part of BIMSTEC joint military exercises in Pune in 2018, it can be argued. 4. Reimagining militaries and other law enforcement forces with cyber and technological assets which India has been moving forward with the establishment of the Chief of Defense Staff, modernizations of the robust artificial intelligence mechanism, which was mentioned by Raksha Rajya Mantri and the Chief of the Army Staff. 5. Identify common strategies, charters, requirements, measures, and laws that govern South Asian states for counterterrorism from the mountains to the ocean. And the last, networking of think tanks with like-minded for providing data evidences and analysis. Mobilize expertise, introducing unforeseen challenges. But what is more important is how and who think tanks influence. The next intergovernmental summit and the probable visit of Chief of the Army Staff of India to Nepal will be an opportunity and fundamental for cooperative and collaborating approach for South Asian security connectivity, also with connectivity of technology, which are vital and imperative for the new South Asian order. The new security architecture to get better coordinate, more efficient, access and appropriate delivery mechanisms from the mountains to the Indian Ocean with no to terrorism and stability for all. Thank you.